policy matter, Board of License Commissioners will discuss whether to adopt a policy requiring all package stores to place nip bottles either behind the counter or on the counter in a protective case so that they must be requested. Such policy will prevent easy access to the bottles and help to reduce the possibility of underage sales.
So this issue came up as a result of, I believe it was earlier this month, when we had the hearing for Inman Wine and Spirits, and we heard lots of testimony from neighbors who were in opposition to them opening, but there was a concern expressed about nip bottles. I know when the investigators have gone out, they looked at the 2 liquor stores on Mass Ave in this area, and their nip bottles are located behind the counter, behind plexiglass, on the counter behind plexiglass. So I think as a policy, I don't think we have any ability to say you can't have nip bottles, nor do I think that that's our jurisdiction. But I think we should make a policy in terms of making nip bottles less accessible. So either requiring that they be placed behind the counter or on the counter behind the plexiglass so that when customers come in, they have to ask for it instead of just being easily accessible. So I don't know if either of you have any thoughts about that.
I think that's consistent with several other locations we've had over the years that have some issues in terms of making them available but making them not readily available so someone can't take them. Those people who are interested in getting them, they can see them and have access to them only through the agent of the store as opposed to themselves. I think it's a good policy.
Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard? Sure, please come forward. Good evening. Please have a seat.
My name is Ben Weiner, W-E-I-N-E-R. I represent Sagamore Spirits, a liquor store at Fresh Pond. My son Michael was the owner, and we've been in business for over 30 years at that location. Before it was called Cappy's. And I recently attended a hearing such as this in Somerville, and my store in Somerville, actually both our stores in Somerville, have adopted the non-access rule. However, there was a number of other liquor stores in Somerville that were a little upset with this particular proposal because they felt that the problem was, I hate to say overstated, but when minors come, and I assume that this is what you're talking about, minor access to 50 mils is what part of that notice was. And minors, when they come into a liquor store, we are on guard. If there's anything, our senses are tuned up a notch to the fact that somebody is coming in the store that looks young. And believe me, the first thing that happens as they near the counter, it's not, it's, let me see your ID, please. They don't even get a chance to get to the counter and put their money down without the cashier asking the youth for an ID. And there is no more secure area in the store than at the register. It's manned every hour, every minute of every hour. So the ability for someone to sneak up and steal nips and run out is extremely remote. And my concern, and other retailers in the area concerned, is that sometimes regulations get passed and it may not be necessary to control the situation. I'm not sure of the situation in Cambridge. I wasn't aware that there was a problem. However, I guarantee that most of the nips that the neighbors were complaining were purchased by adults of legal age, not stolen by minors. So what I would ask is that before regulation such as this gets passed, is it necessary? Now, as a liquor store owner for over 40 years, I don't like to have things stolen from me, believe me. And we're much more concerned about the big bottles being stolen by adults and minors, obviously, than the NIPS are at the counter. For them to steal the NIPS at the counter means they have to distract the cashier, and reaching and grab NIPS stuff for the most part are 99 cents or less. When you talk about a minor heist, it's I just don't think it's as big a problem as it seems to be presented to the public. And in some of what we agreed with Corey Mashburn of Someone Who Cares About Prevention was that the liquor stores would get together and address the issue with his participation without first passing a regulation that may in fact not be necessary. So I don't have a problem with something similar here, is to ask the Cambridge people, and there's a very active Cambridge Liquor Store Association here, and of which my son is the treasurer, and I'm sure the officer is familiar with CLAP. And it's just, I'm saying is what you're asking is good protection, but it may not be necessary.
I would suggest that it levels the playing field so that some of the stores who do it and some of the stores don't. If there's an economic advantage or something, or someone feels that they would go to the store without it, whatever. And it's not just minors, there's other members of the population who are legally entitled. But
it's more of a marketing thing. If you can imagine, I hate to use the analogy of candy in the store, but I'll take one of these, or two of these, one of these. And of course, it's nothing to say that the customer can't ask if it's behind the counter.
absolutely.
But there's something to people handling something that acts as an intrinsic value when you're looking to market a product. And I'm just saying that the worthy issue to continue, and the council pass a ordinance that, because we found that there is a big problem. In somewhere we didn't have any problems. It was
Well,
just
I can tell you that the longest person sitting here, this has been an ongoing problem that's been around for quite a number of years. And it seems like the fact that putting them either behind the counter or behind the plexiglass so they're not advertised, just a lot of stores have done it. It's the biggest name complaint we get.
As a matter of fact,
We're not getting the complaints up in your neck of the woods, but there's other places. And the thing is that for business people, keeping them all on a level playing field, so they're all dealing with the same issue is probably a little bit easier than singling out certain stores after there's a problem. So that's just my opinion.
Right. No, I understand that and appreciate it. As a matter of fact, our store in Cambridge does not have self-service on the NIPS. The NIPS are facing to the cashier. But as a past president of Massachusetts Packers Store Association, I just felt that sometimes I speak on behalf of people who were too busy in their own stores to speak. And I wanted you to hear the other side.
No, absolutely.
Appreciate it. Let me ask you this, does it present any type of economic hardship for the store owner by placing them behind the counter or in the plexiglass?
The only thing I would say would vary from store to store depending upon how much counter space he would have available and how he merchandises it. So for me, it was not a problem because we were able to do what we wanted to do, and I didn't care if I lost about some sales. But there may be others that may care. And that's always bringing up as a point that there is two
Yes,
sides.
I haven't taken a quantified survey, but I wouldn't think there's too many that have it to change much from what they're doing now. But again, you say it levels the playing field with all the stores in Cambridge, so that they're all dealing with the same set of rules. So in case one feels as though it's unfair market advantage to have them out where they can get them versus someone who's being voluntarily compliant, I'm not a big regulation fan either, but I think it does level the playing field for the business on this.
But I think that some would be against it, some would be for it.
I'm sure, yeah.
That's the way things are in our business. But I certainly want to take the opportunity to present that side of the issue.
We appreciate you coming in.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
And thank you for coming in. Is there anyone else that would like to be heard on this? Going once? So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a policy that nip bottles will be required to be placed behind the counter, or on the counter behind a plexiglass. I'd like to be able to give establishments time to make it happen, so I'm thinking of an effective date of October 1st.
Could
Is
I
it?
ask you one thing?
Sure.
For this policy, many of these nips are in cookie jars. Cookie jars, I don't know if you consider them your definition of plastic.
Plexiglass or glass?
Yes, so I'm just saying if they're non-accessible to the public as opposed to having to be behind plexiglass, if that would be part of the regulation. So they were just not accessible to self-service. Because the cookie jars are great because they stack up, but they're not accessible to the public.
So
If that will qualify.
if they're in a cookie jar behind the counter. Again, so as long as they're not accessible where somebody could reach in and grab it.
Ours are on the counter but inaccessible. I mean, they'd have to jump over the counter, in which case I'd have a lot more problems. So
That's least of your problems.
Like we have cookie jars facing towards.
I'm sorry, if you can come forward, if you're going to speak, I'm going to need your name on the record.
Hear myself.
Good evening.
This is Brenda Pavla. I'm a manager for Marshall
Yes,
Brothers.
if you could spell your first name and last name, please.
GURINDER PABLA.
Okay,
I'm the manager for the Martin Brothers, 1144 Cambridge Street.
okay.
Just a question about the cookie jars. Like if we have a cookie jars on the counter, we have the nips behind the counter. And if the cookie jar is here and facing towards the cashier, not towards the public, is it okay to have it, the new policy? Or we have to remove the cookie jar from the counter? You know, the cookie jars like there's a facing
I see what you're
towards
saying. So the opening is facing
towards
toward.
the cashier, not towards the public.
Board, your thoughts?
I personally don't see a problem with it in that, whether I point to it underneath, you take it out, or take it out of the jar
We
myself.
take it out from the jar, like, you know, when we sell it.
So when you sell it, are people reaching around to stick their hand in,
No,
or do they
we
have to
are
ask?
selling them. We are like, you know, cashier is taking it for the,
I'm
I mean, we
fine,
have
as long
like-
as it's not self-service, as long as someone's not reaching into a basket and
okay.
grabbing it themselves, and it's sitting, you know, with the cookie part turned the other way where people
Okay.
can reach in.
Okay.
I just want to make it so that people have to ask for it.
That's for it. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry I interrupted.
No,
I
no worries.
wanted to get that clarified.
So, motion's been made. Is there a second?
We just say plexiglass or glass enclosure to prevent self-serve.
That's correct. That's fine.
Second.
With an effective date of October 1st.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.